doing?
You're not supposed to say, what are you doing? You're supposed to say hello.
Oh. Hello.
My baby got an owie. What did you do? How'd you hurt yourself?
Horseplay with my grandson.
Aw. Let me
And
kiss
this is
it.
the result.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Peaches from Love Your Healthy Life. And I'm gonna do a little harvesting today because I'm on my way to run some errands. But I am so excited about all the volunteers that it's been growing on in my garden. I waited this year to do my weeding, and I kind of did the weeding with my granddaughter, kind of monitored it a little bit. In the past couple of years, I've been having different members of my family do weeding. This year I wanted to wait a little bit because I had so many volunteer zinnias that I saw growing throughout the garden, and I waited a little longer. Normally I have my grandkids do the weeding and other members of my family, but this year she did help me a little bit, but also my daughter, and I kind of monitor it to make sure that they weren't pulling up any of my volunteer plants. But I noticed that I had some other volunteers that were coming up, and I'm glad that I decided to do weeding, just take my time with the weeding and hold off on pulling up some of the plants that I looked like weeds but weren't weeds. Well, I'm going to do a little harvesting, show you some of my exciting volunteer plants that I'm so excited about, and also some of my new blooms and flowers that are growing on in my garden. So come along with me and let's have some fun. Okay guys, so there are so many new things blooming in my garden. Now I wanted to show you how beautiful this purslane is looking in the daytime. In the evening it closes back up, so it's like it's a succulent actually. Now I planted this in all of my fruit planters, and I just love how beautiful it looks and how it brings on the bees. See the nice size bumblebees. It's such a pretty succulent, and I have it growing. This is our seeding area. I have it growing in all of my fruit baskets. There. And I bought a little vase out here, and I fill it with fresh water, and I like to cut my zinnias that are right over here and bring them and cut them and put them right in this vase so we can enjoy them while we sit down and just enjoy the garden. Over here in my aluffa planter I have more of the purslane growing, and my mandevilla is starting to bloom really well. And then what I wanted to show you is my loofah. Look how large the loofah plants are getting. They're getting so big and large, but they're growing. My husband thought they were cucumbers, didn't you, babes?
Yes.
But they're not. The zinnias are really filling out on both sides of my garden. Garden helper here is giving my lettuce a haircut here in the cool frame, and there's our harvest right there, and we'll just do this bed today. And let me show you my other bed, and this is another cold frame that I have lettuce growing, and it's grown so much since my last video. Well guys, I did things a little bit different in my garden this year. And one of the things I did different is just to let everything grow wild. initially. Yes, I'm paying for it now, but I think it's going to pay off in the long run. Like, I didn't even plant sunflowers because normally I get sunflowers. That is if we don't pull the weeds out and think they're a weed. But see how pretty that sunflower is? It's so beautiful. And everything in your garden looks like a weed initially when it first comes up, for the most part. So look at these pretty zinnias. They're so beautiful. If I had my grandkids in here pulling all the weeds, they would have pulled that. And then look at this right here. It is so awesome. It is a ground cherry. I hadn't planted ground cherries probably in the last 2 years, but I've been missing it because I come and weed everything out. But this year I didn't, so now I have ground cherries. And it had like 3 or 4 ground cherries growing over here, so I moved some of them to my row garden. So we're gonna have ground cherries this year. And then look at all the zinnias growing. I mean, I have zinnias growing throughout my garden. All the zinnias you see here in my raised bed garden, I did not plant. So even the ones throughout here, they just came up. I let come up all on its own. Even the ones back here came up on its own. Now there is a downside. The downside is you get weeds. And I'm not sure what this weed is or what this weed is here, but it is so evasive. So if you can stomach the weeds in your garden, then you'll have a lot of interesting things that you don't even have to plant. And I'm just really excited about that. And my phlox is starting to bloom right here. Then all of my California zinnias have started to bloom and they're growing really tall. And in another few weeks, these will stand over 6 feet tall. And I love how they kind of add as a backdrop to this display right here. And I really like it. And these black-eyed Susans or coneflowers are growing in another area of my garden that looked like a weed, and I decided to bring them over here and this flower area to bring a little yellow to this area. I just think it's so pretty. Yes, and I love chimes in a garden. I have chimes throughout my garden. And right here in this little planter, I have thyme growing, and I planted this last year. And it didn't do really well, but this year it came back and it's really filling out well, and I really like it. And I think this was some parsley. I'm gonna cut back, and look at all this oregano. I'm gonna cut back as well. It's really flowering and it's time to cut it back. Right over here I have some basil growing. I like to grow my herbs in containers, although one of the new raised beds that I'm constructing, I'm gonna be dedicating it just to herbs. So I transplanted one of the ground cherries over here, and then I put one right there. So we'll have plenty of ground cherries to munch on. And I'm a snacker, which is actually a bad thing, but I'm trying to grow more healthier things for me to snack on, like ground cherries, cherry tomatoes, gonna be planting some radishes, that kind of thing. Now right over here are my watermelon plants that I planted, and they're doing really well. And I promised my husband that I would plant really sweet, large watermelons. So they're coming in really well. And then back over here, I'm going to be planting my pumpkin plants, my Cinderella pumpkins. Probably in a few weeks, I'll be planting those out. Wow, this is a very large tomato. It is so huge. And this is my favorite tomato. I may be planting some more of these tomatoes because I want to make sure I can put enough away for the winter and eat these tomatoes. They're so delicious. And I think I have another one right there, so I'm gonna go ahead and harvest that one. This one right here is not quite ripe, but I'm gonna put this in the windowsill to ripen the rest of the way. But these are some really large tomatoes. And my white cherry tomatoes are some of my favorite tomatoes. So they're really delicious. And they taste delicious just like candy when you dehydrate them. This one right here is probably gonna be my largest tomato. It is really, really huge. Guys, wow, this is by far my best tomato year. Look at, I have these large tomatoes growing everywhere, and this method, I guess it's called like the Florida weave method. I don't know. It's not the perfect method for these large tomatoes. So I'm gonna do some research and see what I can do better. Maybe trellis, I was thinking. I saw different individuals growing tomatoes on trellises. I'm not sure how that would work for me though, because they grow tall, but they don't really vine like a bean or anything like that, and I'm short. Oh my goodness, they're just everywhere, these large tomatoes, and I'm definitely gonna have to rethink the method of how I'm growing my tomatoes. And these are my Brandywine black tomatoes, black Brandywine tomatoes, and they're ready to harvest. So these tomatoes right here are doing really well, and on the side, on each side of the tomatoes, I have beans growing. These are bush beans, except for you saw the one that are growing on the tower. And then I have my new peppers right there. And then more bush beans and more peppers on this side. Now, I have the space over here, and I was contemplating corn or more lettuce. So I think I just might plant more lettuce. I do have some squash plants over here as well. Wow, look at that large. I've been harvesting these large, huge bell peppers, and I'm so happy that I planted more bell peppers this year because my husband really loves them. So here is the squash plants. I planted one there and there. Didn't come up. I think it's because it maybe got dried out or something, but I'm gonna plant some more seeds there. And these tomatoes, I believe, are my moneymaker tomatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and harvest this one, put it in the window, and this one as well. Look how many are on this one tomato plant. So I have so many, and I'm gonna harvest this side of my tomatoes and then go to the other side. So many large tomatoes over here as well. Just tomatoes, tomatoes everywhere you look. And my beans, my succession planting of beans are starting to come in as well. Well guys, this is my tomato harvest, and it is well over 15 pounds worth of tomatoes, and I'm going to have to get another basket to harvest my beans and my peppers. Now the Roman bush beans are a flat bean, and I just cut these like in threes, and you can stir fry them. They're really, really delicious. I think I talked about that in my other video, but we really love the Roman bush beans. And the good thing about the Roman bush beans, you don't have to worry about them having the little, what do you call that on the beans? Strings. They're stringless. So that's one reason I like them, is because they're really easy to prepare, because you don't have to worry about, you know, the strings on the green beans. And let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest this one right here. So I'm not gonna bore you with harvesting the green beans, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you my harvest once I'm done. And I know I'll be out here for at least a half hour harvesting these green beans. There's so many of them. Okay, so this batch of beans is from my newest row of beans, and there's so many tiny ones still growing. And I like to harvest my beans when they're like this. I don't want to see any beans starting to form, sort of like this one. You can see the little humps in there. This one's okay, but it's still delicious. But this is how I like to harvest my beans, nice and young, just like this.
So let's keep harvesting.
Now I also planted some purple potted bush beans as well, and these are really delicious. When you cook them, I think they do turn green. So I'm going to harvest some of these as well. And this is in my succession row of beans. And I did plant some stringless bush beans as well, and I'm going to go ahead and harvest these. Don't have a lot of these growing, but I did plant a few. Well guys, we've been picking a lot of peppers, and these Sugar Rush peach peppers are really, really delicious, and I love putting these on my eggs in the morning. Go ahead ahead and pick this one. They're supposed to turn peachy, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick them. So this is my harvest for today. The tomatoes, homemade tomatoes, and the green beans, a few peppers because I already have a lot in the house already. And so yeah, I am so happy with this harvest.